Hey everyone, so welcome back for part 11. I do think this is going to be the last part as well because when it comes to the actual deposition transcript itself, there's only like 20 pages. And when I say that, there's obviously four actual pages of deposition per page. But there is actually only 20 pages left. So I am going to unless there's a lot left at the hour mark, I'm just going to power through and get it all done in one. I think that's more preferable. Okay, so Gottlieb, part 10, we left it. Gottlieb was asking about sort of recollection, how Alex Sachs was talking to Blake Lively or describing Blake Lively's version of the events, what happened on the trailer part. So that's the bit where Jamie Heath is alleged to have just walked in while she was topless, which he's asking about that. So I'm just going to continue from there. Okay. I'll probably restart this question. Gottlieb, right now I'm asking you about what happened in the trailer. I'm asking about your recollection. Justin, this is accurate. Of the meeting that you witnessed, this is Gottlieb continuing, of the meeting that you witnessed and whether this description is an accurate reflection as you sit here today of the meeting that you witnessed. Shapiro objects. Justin, I don't think it's fully accurate. Gottlieb, okay, let's go step by step. Do you recall Miss Lively saying that on day 2, Mr. Heath went to her trailer? Shapiro objects. I don't recall her saying that on day 2. Mr. Heath went into her trailer. Do you recall Miss Lively telling a story about Mr. Heath entering her trailer? Yes. Do you remember her saying, oh, actually, I'm getting body makeup done, or something to that effect? I recall the way she told the story was that when he entered, she said, come in, but I'm getting body makeup done, so please turn away. And that's more or less what Miss Sachs is saying in 943. She says, you can come in if you don't like. What? Are you kidding me? But her makeup artist said in her deposition that they were shouting, no, no, don't come in. And now we find out that Blake Lively and Alex Sachs did actually say, yes, come in, but don't look. Which is what Jamie Heath said too. Okay, so we are a full 2 minutes in and I'm already pissed off. Okay, Shapiro objects. Justin, again, I don't remember her saying you can come in if you don't look. That doesn't feel accurate to me. Gottlieb, okay. Nor does this next piece. That's all I'm saying. Is my recollection this is like 4 lines in a text message, so I can't say this is exactly what Miss Lively said. So do you recall Miss Lively saying that Mr. Heath was looking in her direction the entire conversation when she turned round? Justin, no, I remember Miss Lively saying that when she turned round, she had noticed that Miss Heath was looking in her direction. That Mr. Heath was looking in her direction. And do you recall Miss Lively saying, that made her feel uncomfortable? No. Do you recall Miss Lively saying this in a way that she seemed happy about it? Shapiro objects. Justin, no. She seemed unhappy about it. Justin, I don't think it was, she wasn't upset. She didn't seem upset. Is it your testimony that you don't believe Miss Lively to be saying that she didn't care one way or another that Mr. Heath was looking at her in the trailer that day? Shapiro objection. Justin, that's not what I said. I'm trying to understand what you recollect, and if you recollect that Miss Lively relayed the story because she was troubled, bothered, concerned, whatever word you would like to use about it, or if you're saying something different. Shapiro objection. Well, if you'd asked me if I thought Miss Lively was upset and that's why she was sharing the story, I can't, speculate to what Miss Lively was feeling. All I was saying was that she did not seem upset as she was sharing the story. It felt like this was something that she wanted to share to ensure it didn't happen again. But I can't speculate as to what she was feeling or not feeling. She didn't want it to happen again. You understood that? Yes. Okay. Did anyone talk to HR about the incident in the trailer? To my knowledge, no. Do you know one way or another whether Miss Lively started locking her trailer door after that event? I do not. Did Sony ever issue any kind of warning to you or Mr. Heath as far as you know? A warning? Warning? No, not that I'm aware of. A caution? You're welcome to refresh my memory, but not that I can think of. That's fine. I'm just interested if you can recall at any time that they cautioned or warned or otherwise issued anything that sounded like that to you. I don't recall a warning or a caution. Let's do Exhibit 31. Mr. Baldoni, you've been handed what's been marked as Exhibit 31, which is a document. And this is a text chain, I believe, between yourself, Mr. Heath, Miss Abel, and Stephanie Jones on November 10th, 2023. Let me know once you've had a chance to look at it. Okay. Had a chance to review Exhibit 31, Mr. Baldoni? I have. Do you recognize this document? I do. You've seen this before? I have. You've seen both the text and the attachment before? Yes. This text chain, Henny Grace, is your alias, is that right? Was? Yes. Was your alias, and you are communicating through that with Mr. Heath, Miss Abel, and Stephanie Jones, is that right? That's just the name on the way my phone is set up. Okay. That's not like I show up as Henny Grace to be anybody else. And the date is November 10th, 2023. It appears so. And you were asking Miss Abel and Miss Jones for a Zoom, correct? Yes. Why were you asking your publicist for a Zoom about the attached document? I wanted to share it with them. At 10:11 p.m., Mr. Heath sends through what appears to be a screenshot of a message from someone named Lindsay to Amin and Joseph. Did I pronounce that first name right? Close enough. Well, I'm not going to be able to pronounce it from text myself, so they go back and forth to get the name's pronunciation right. Have you seen that text before? I believe this is a text that was an email, so yes. So it's a text forwarding through language from in the email, is that right? Correct. And this was the cover email that was sent to the protections for return to production that are on the following pages? I believe so, yes. And Lindsay Strasberg is an attorney who represented Miss Lively, is that right? I believe so, yes. And this is around the time that you first learned of the enclosed list of protections? I would imagine so. Do you see how at the top of that message Miss Strasberg writes, "It's no surprise to the film's producer that the experience of shooting the film has been deeply concerning on many levels." I do see that. And by that point in time, you were aware of and familiar with a number of concerns that had been expressed by multiple people on the set of It Ends With Us. Is that correct? Shapiro objects. Justin, no, we were very surprised by that language. Okay. You see the next sentence after that? The complaints of our client and others have been repeatedly conveyed and well documented throughout pre-production and photography. Do you see that? I do see that. Is it your testimony that you were surprised by that language as well? Shapiro objects. I was surprised by all of this. Yes. The next sentence says, while we reserve all legal rights at this stage, our client is willing to forego a more formal HR process in favor of everyone returning to work and finishing the film as long as the set is safe moving forward. Do you see that? I do. You understood that the objective of this list was to allow the production of the film to continue as long as the set is safe moving forward. Yes. And then the next sentence says, in order for our client to feel safe returning to production, we are attaching a list of protections that will need to be guaranteed and observed by the film's producers. Do you see that? Yes. And you understood that reference to be a list, the reference to the list to be the 17 points that are on the attached page. After I read this, I learned that to be the case. Yes. Okay. And you also understood, well, let me ask you this way. Did you think at this point in time that legal action might be possible with respect to what Miss Lively was asserting here? Shapiro objects. I had no idea what Miss Lively was asserting here. Did you read the 17 points? I did. Do you recall reading them promptly when you received this? I do. Do you recall reading them more than once? That I don't recall, but do you see references in the 17-point list to an intimacy coordinator being present at all times? Do you see a reference in number one? Yes. For an intimacy coordinator being present at all times. Yes. And you knew that Miss Lively had concerns about some of the intimate scenes in the movie, correct? Shapiro objects. This was just, it's an easy yes. A lot of these things are just things that are no issues. What do you mean by that? She wants an intimacy coordinator present at all times when she's on set. That's fine. It's a reasonable ask? Sure. That's not something that is fabricated? Shapiro objects. What do you mean? That's not a demand based on some fabricated event? Shapiro objects. I don't even know what the event is. There's no talking about an event here. It's just an ask for an intimacy coordinator present at all times. We already had an intimacy coordinator, so then Gottlieb interrupts. Do you read reference to number 3? There is to be no spontaneous improvising of any scenes involving physical touching, simulated sex, or nudity? Yes. Was that also a reasonable ask? I have no idea what that was about, and that is a reasonable ask. Did you later come to learn what that was about? Shapiro objects. Justin, I later learned that Miss Lively had said that there was improvising of a dance scene, but I had no understanding of that receiving this document. Later you understood that because you sent a video out to the public about that dance scene, right? Shapiro objects. Justin, I didn't personally send a video out. You had it sent out? Shapiro objects. I didn't have it sent out, but I agreed for it to go out, yes. And that scene involved improvisation of intimacy, is that correct? Objection. I don't believe so. Is it your testimony that everything that occurred during that scene was written into the script? Shapiro objects. No, it's my testimony that I wouldn't qualify that as intimacy. Nothing in the video, the dance scene from the bar, is something that you would describe as intimacy. I'm not a representative of SAG, nor am I an intimacy coordinator, but I don't believe that intimacy coordinator would describe the actions in that video as an intimate scene. Did it involve physical touch? Oh, for God's sake. It's not what an intimacy coordinator does. Did it involve physical touching? Dancing? So yes, the two characters were already touching in that scene. Did it involve kissing? To my understanding, there was no kissing in that scene. But there was kissing in the video, correct? No. Did you attempt to kiss Miss Lively? No. In the filming of that scene? No. Okay. God, that's just so ridiculous. Can you imagine that, right? Can you imagine all film sets needing to have an intimacy coordinator just because characters held hands or danced together? That's a fucking wild situation. This is ridiculous. Okay, you see in number 6, it says no one will enter, attempt to enter, interrupt, pressure, request to enter Blake Lively's trailer while she's in a state of undress for any reason. I see it, yes. You understood what that referred to, did you not? I made an assumption at the time, but again, very surprising considering everything after that conversation was fine. You mentioned before a discussion about Miss Lively getting COVID, right? Yes. You see a reference to number 9, Miss Lively being exposed to COVID. I mean, for fuck's sake. It's an illness. It's a virus that spreads. We'd just come out of a pandemic. People still had it. I mean, there's nothing that Wayfair could have done to physically prevent Blake Lively from catching COVID if someone on the set had it and didn't know they had it. Okay. You see a reference to number 9, Miss Lively being exposed to COVID. Yes. So that one is not made up either, right? It's also not sexual harassment. Shapiro objects. To my knowledge, Miss Lively had COVID-19. She said she did. She did. Did you see the paragraph 10 saying there should be no retaliation of any kind against Blake Lively for raising concerns about the conduct described in this letter or for these requirements? Any changes in attitude, sarcasm, marginalization, or other negative behavior, either on set or otherwise, including during publicity and promotional work, as a result of these requests, is retaliatory and unacceptable and will be met with immediate action. Right, the problem with that is He could have a bad day. He could lose, I don't know, a parent or something and have a change in his attitude or, just be in a general bad mood. And that is okay. But this kind of clause does not give him space to be anything other than, upbeat and positive, which is not fair. Also, it's subjective. This is not it's not a, like an is like who determines whether something has changed, whether behavior is negative? Who makes that determination? Is that according to the reasonable person, or is that according to Blake Lively's incredibly low and self-serving standards? Do you see that? I do. And you ultimately agreed to that, did you not? I mean, they couldn't not agree to it. They did try to negotiate. Shapiro, objection. Justin, I still do. And Wayfarer Studios agreed to that as well, right? I believe Wayfarer Studios is who agreed to this, yes. Do you see the reference in paragraph 17 to the holding of a all hands in-person meeting before production resumes? Yes. Do you see that meeting was supposed to include the director, all producers, the Sony representative, the newly engaged third-party producer, Blake Lively, and Blake Lively's designated representatives to confirm and approve a plan for the implementation of the above that will be adhered to for the physical and emotional safety of Blake Lively, her employees, and all the cast and crew moving forward. I mean, and when she set a date, when she sent the invitation to Justin for that meeting, she did say he could go alone. So if it was supposed to include all those people, why did she not invite them all? Sorry, I feel like I'm doing a bit of cross-examination, like in real time, or of some of theirs. I think that's just my legal mindset, but it's questions I have and things that bother me, details that bother me. Okay, I do. Did that meeting occur? Right, okay. Did that meeting occur? I believe that meeting did occur. When did that meeting occur? The evening before day one of production. I don't have the exact date offhand. January 4th, 2024? That sounds correct. And where was that meeting held? Miss Lively and Mr. Reynolds' residence. And did all those people that you see listed there in paragraph 17 attend to the best of your knowledge? They did, but I don't believe anyone knew what that was the meeting. Okay. That they were attending. So Gottlieb, Exhibit 32. I may after like the next round need to do you want to take a Shapiro, do you want to take a break now to go to the bathroom? Gottlieb, if you want to take a break now for the restroom, we can. Justin, can we take a quick break? Shapiro, 10 minutes. Justin, I don't need that much time. Shapiro, 5 minutes. Gottlieb, it's hard to take a very short break just because people have to. Okay. Let's go off the record. So we go off the record. Gottlieb, Mr. Baldoni, before the break, I had handed you Exhibit 32. I'm going to ask you about your message that appears on the first full page of Exhibit 32. Exhibit 32 is a text chain between yourself and a number of individuals on November 12th, 2023. Is that right? Justin, yes. And how would you describe it? Looks like there's a title to this group. It says Prayers and Support. What is that? This is just a group of some of my best male friends. And Mr. Heath is on there. He's a friend and also a co-worker, right? Yes. And what about Mr. Musial? My best friend and not technically a co-worker, former partner? Former partner from Wayfarer Entertainment? Yes. But not with Wayfarer Studios? Not in an official capacity. Okay. Anyone else in this chain that was with or an employee of Wayfarer Studios? No. Okay. So then, looking at your message, you have a message that carries over from 26194 to 26195. And that's the message that you send to this group. It looks like 11:49 a.m. on November 12th, 2023. Is that right? Yes. And this is a day or two after you received the 17-point return to production. I haven't seen this, so I would love to read it. Okay, please do. I'm not going to ask you anything about it past your message. Okay, I read it. You knew that the protections for the return to production document with the 17 conditions insinuated that you were unsafe sexually harassing. Shapiro objects. I don't know what I knew at the time, but I clearly said that. I think I didn't know what she was actually insinuating, but I was clearly scared and filled with anxiety. Okay, but the words you used were, I am unsafe / sexually harassing, etc., 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 right? Shapiro objects. We all know what this document insinuates. Do you recall earlier in your testimony, I was asking you questions about whether you have ever understood that it was insinuated that you had sexually harassed anyone? I do remember that part of the conversation. And you answered that question with a no. Shapiro objects. I'm not sure what I answered. Gottlieb. Okay, here you are saying, we all know what this document insinuates, right? I see that. You say, this is all manipulation, right? I see that I said that too. You say, there's even silly things inferring Jamie was inappropriate, which is silly, right? I read that, yes. Is the reference to Mr. Heath that's in the 17-point list a reference to entering trailers? Shapiro objects. I have no idea what I was referring to here. Okay, what you knew was that you thought that there was something inferring that Mr. Heath had been inappropriate, which you thought was silly. Shapiro objects. I don't know what I was saying was silly. That's what I can tell you. You said that this letter was sent in an effort to gain power over you personally and the studio, right? I think that's what I believed. That's what you believed at the time? Very clearly, yes. Yet you thought all or nearly all of the requests or conditions in the letter were reasonable, right? Shapiro objects. I did. So what kind of a plan is that? Objection. If you're trying to come up with a plan to assert power and domination over somebody, why would you send them a list of 17 very reasonable things to do? Shapiro objects. I can't speculate as to why someone would do that. In the list of the 17 conditions or the text that was accompanying it, that was a screenshot in the document we just looked at. Was there any demand to send Miss Lively the unfinished director's cut of the movie? In what we read together? In what we read together? No. Was there any demand that Miss Lively be allowed to take control of the edit of the film? In the 17-point list? In the 17-point list? No. Was there any demand about ultimate control over the content of the film? Shapiro objects. I believe there was in the 17-point list. And what's your recollection of that? I believe there was a paragraph where she asked for ultimate control over some of the content of the film, just like what you said. What content was that? I believe any intimate scene depicting her character. Over intimate scenes, correct. Yes, but okay. I consider that content. You say to your friend group, we don't believe she will leave or leak to press, but this is her threat of a nuclear bomb. As she knows, this is the only way to get to me. Do you see that? I do. What did you mean, this is the only way to get to me? I'm not sure what I meant. Do you believe that as you sit here today, the 17-point list was a nuclear bomb and the only way to get to you? Again, I don't know what I meant. This was a text sent in a very confusing, dark period where I had no idea what was happening and I was filled with anxiety. Did you consider the 17-point list and the letter attached to it to be something that was pretty sensitive? Shapiro objects. I'm not sure I know what you mean. Was it the kind of document that at the time you would have wanted to get out in public? I can't imagine I would want that. You would have wanted it to be confidential, right? Shapiro objects. Justin, yes. It involved a series of conditions relating to It Ends With Us and the production of It Ends With Us that involved rather sensitive matters, right? Shapiro objects. It was a legal document that came to our attorneys, so yes. And it involved issues relating to personnel and employment with respect to the film, right? Shapiro objects. Justin, yes. So why did you feel like it was appropriate to send details about that to a friend group that included lots of people that didn't work at Wayfarer Studios? Shapiro objects. I don't believe I sent the document itself or any attachments. You just described it? Shapiro objects. I wasn't aware that there was anything in the document saying that I couldn't describe it. Before, when I was asking you about the incident in Miss Lively's trailer involving Mr. Heath, did you ever take any steps to confirm or learn what had actually happened in that meeting? Shapiro objects. My understanding is anything that happened during that meeting interaction was discussed in person and worked out, and my recollection is Mr. Heath apologized to her for even looking in her direction. That's what he was apologizing for, and it never happened again. Did you ever take any steps to decide for yourself what you thought had happened? Shapiro objects. I'm not sure what further steps I could have taken, as Miss Lively herself spoke to Jamie, and they were the two people involved. You later come to learn that Mr. Heath had a different view of what happened in the trailer with Miss Lively, right? Slightly different at the time. And so did you take any steps to try to ascertain whose version of events was correct or accurate? No, because at the time the stories seemed to be pretty similar, and there was no reason to. It worked out. Eventually, you believed Mr. Heath's version of what happened in the trailer. Objection. Again, at that time, which was 2023, the versions were very close. They seem to be very different now. Earlier, we talked a little bit about the January 4th meeting in Miss Lively's apartment. Do you recall that? Yes. You said, well, withdrawn. You attended that meeting. I did. It was memorable. Objection. That's one way to put it. Would you characterize it as traumatic? I for me, would. I'm not sure if anyone else would. I'm only talking about you, sir. Objection. Yeah. During that meeting, did Miss Lively read a list from her phone? She did. Do you have a distinct memory of her reading a list of incidents or items from her phone to the group during that meeting? I do. Okay. I'm going to mark the next exhibit, Exhibit 33. Mr. Baldoni, you've been handed what has been marked as Exhibit 33. Have you had a chance to review this exhibit, Exhibit 33? I have. Do you know one way or another, as you sit here today, whether this is a list that Miss Lively read from her phone during that meeting on January 4th? This was not the list that Miss Lively read from her phone. How do you know that this is not the list that Miss Lively read from her phone in that meeting on January 4th, 24? For one, she never used the word in no more. So that's how I know, first off. Okay, and how do you know that based on your specific recollection of how she spoke to you during the meeting? I know because I was present and in shock of what I was hearing and paid very close attention to the words, and no more was never used. It also says an updated list, so I'm not sure when it was updated. Okay, well, apart from your identification of no more, do you have any other reason to believe that this list is not what Miss Lively read during the meeting on January 4th, 2024? Shapiro objects. I think that's the big one. I mean, the fact that she never said no more shows it's not the same list. I'm asking if there's any other reason. Yes, there are certain, I would say there's quite a few things in here that were not read or discussed that day. Do you recall Miss Lively saying during the meeting that this was the worst experience of her life? I do. However, since then, Megan Toohey has confirmed that it was not, in fact, the worst experience of her life. Do you recall her saying during the meeting that others had witnessed this behaviour? Shapiro objects. I don't remember those exact words, no. Do you recall the words creepy or abuse being used in reference to your behaviour? I definitely don't remember the word abuse. I think I remember the word creepy. Do you recall feeling embarrassed while Miss Lively was reading out these items? I think that could be accurate for one of the things I was feeling, yeah. I want to mark another exhibit. Before I go on, Mr. Baldoni, I can't remember if Ange Giannetti is one of the people whose depositions you listened to. Did you listen to that one? I listened to part of it, yes. Did you listen to the part where she testified about the January 4th meeting? I'm unsure. Do you know one way or another whether Ange Giannetti testified about whether this list, Exhibit 33, is what she remembered Miss Lively sharing during that meeting? I don't know. Would you be surprised to learn that Miss Giannetti testified that this is the list she remembers Miss Lively sharing? Shapiro objects. I wouldn't be surprised. Okay, Exhibit 34. Mr. Baldoni, you've been handed what's been marked as Exhibit 34, which is another text chain in the prayers and support text, where we talked about, I think, in Exhibit 32. Go ahead and read it. Okay. This is a text chain on January 5th, 2024, with the prayers and support group that you testified about previously. It appears to be so. And is a WhatsApp group, or is that a group that's just on your phone? I don't think it was a WhatsApp. I think it was just a message. And this is the day after the January 4th meeting, right? It appears to be January 5th, correct. Mr. Wilson is asking for an update at 6:20 p.m. Yes. And you respond, I certainly do. And in your response, you acknowledge that Miss Lively conveyed that you had made her feel unsafe. Is that right? Essentially, that's what she said, yes. You say, my brain was trying to defend itself when they were needing me to apologize for all the ways I have fucked up and made her feel unsafe, right? That's what I wrote, yes. And you disagreed with Miss Lively, I imagine? Very strongly. But you understood very well her to be saying that you had made her feel unsafe, right? I understood that's what she was insinuating by reading from this list. And you say here you were read from a phone all the things that I did. While many of them were based in actual situations, the events were wrong and things were taken completely out of context. Do you see that? I do. And so you were saying here that the list includes a number of things and situations that occurred, but you disagree with the way that they were being framed and the context that they were being placed in. Shapiro objects. Yes, completely. You see here the word creepy and abused were used in reference to me and my behavior. I do see that, yes. And you see a little bit later, you say that you were unable to respond. Mr. Heath did a beautiful job apologizing. You were embarrassed that you were unable to formulate the correct words to apologize, and honestly feel like a bad person. Do you see that? I would beat myself up a lot, clearly. You said, it's hard to feel so much of what they believe about me is false because they are so convinced that it's real. Do you see that? I do. Did it occur to you that they might be right? Shapiro objects. No. Did it occur to you that maybe some of the ways you had perceived how your actions had affected Miss Lively were inconsistent with how Miss Lively perceived your actions? Shapiro objects. Can you ask that one more time? Did it occur to you that maybe you and Miss Lively did not share the same feelings about events that you both recognized occurred? Shapiro objects. I think it was very clear that we didn't share the same feelings. My issue was with the actual events themselves. Did it occur to you that certain events that you knew had occurred might have had a different kind of effect on Miss Lively than they had on you? Shapiro objects. I'm not sure. You were told that this was the worst experience of Miss Lively's life. I believe I wrote that down, so did I give you pause, Mr. Baldoni? Shapiro objects. In what way? In a way that you were making a movie about an important subject. It was important to you, consistent with the mission of your studio. You wanted to empower women and tell a story through a female gaze, and you had your lead actor, co-star, saying it was the worst experience of her life. Objection. I found it very confusing. This is 35. Thanks. Mr. Baldoni, you've been handed what's marked as Exhibit 35. Uh-huh. And I apologize if I've asked this before, but who is Travis Van Winkle? He's one of my best friends. Okay. Not a Wayfarer employee? Not a Wayfarer employee. And this is a text chain between you and Mr. Van Winkle on February 23rd, 2024. Is that right? Yes. All right. Take a minute, read through it, and I'll ask you some questions. You've had a chance to read Exhibit 35? I have. This is your text exchange with Mr. Van Winkle. It is. At 11:15 a.m., which is on the bottom of page 18854. In reference to Sony, you say they just want the movie to do well and they can't release a movie the star doesn't promote. Do you see that? Yes. You believe that was true, right? At one point, Josh said that they would release it even if she doesn't. But my saying they can't, I mean, I'm just mincing words, but overall, they did not want to or suggest releasing a movie that a star would not promote. Sort of common knowledge the studio doesn't want to release a film that the lead doesn't want to engage in promotion of. Yes. Not a super controversial proposition, right? Sorry, my little one then just come in to talk to me. Not a super controversial proposition, right? I don't think that would be. All right. That was true from day one, right? What was? If Miss Lively didn't want to promote the movie, it was going to be difficult to release it. I'm sure that's one of the reasons that Sony suggested her. And it was one of the reasons you wanted her on the film, right? Because if Miss Lively promoted the movie would be more successful. Objection. I'm sure that was one of the reasons. Because she's a star. Sorry, I can only keep this in so much. Because her husband's a star. Yeah. In fact, you recall having a conversation with Mr. Heath at the time you were trying to bring Miss Lively on in December of 2022, where you and Mr. Heath say everybody loves Blake Lively. Really? I don't remember that conversation, but I'm sure you would have it. Would it surprise you if you had that conversation with Mr. Heath? Objection. I don't think it would. You thought in December of 2022 Miss Lively had a sterling reputation. Is that right? I believe I did. And that she was well liked by fans. Yes. Yes, I believe I did. And the kind of person who could help drive box office success, right? Yes. Along with her husband and her best friend. And the kind of person who could help get the message, the important message of your movie out, right? Well, that's his big mistake, really. Shapiro objects. Yes, I hope that would be a big part of it. So, would you have disagreed in December of 2022 if somebody had said to you, Miss Lively has got a terrible, well known reputation in the industry, nobody likes her? Shapiro objects. Nobody told me that. If Katie Case or Brianna Coslow had told you that in December of 2022, would you have found it very surprising? Shapiro objects. I don't think I can speculate on that. Okay, on the previous page, 18853 at 11:01 a.m., you say of Miss Lively, she had the nuclear bomb. If she doesn't promote the movie, she can leak that I'm a bad person or that she felt unsafe with me and all the stuff she has on me. Then she's the victim. It's the Taylor Swift playbook, so she can ask for whatever she wants because she knows I know. Do you see that? I do. Did you mean that? Objection. What part of it? All of it. I don't know. You would agree to the conditions that Miss Lively had asked for to return to set, right? Yes. And upon the return to production, so far as production went on set, things went pretty well, right? According to your own complaint, everything went great. Any other incidents you can think of after January 4th, 2024? No. So what is all this stuff that Miss Lively had on you that constituted the nuclear bomb? Shapiro objects. I don't know. Would it be the items in the list that Miss Lively read from here? Miss Lively read from in the meeting on January 4th that you're referring to here? Shapiro objects. I'm sure that was part of it. Is what? Sorry, go ahead. No, please. Is what you were afraid that Miss Lively might leak? Shapiro objects. I'm not sure what she was going to do. I was very in the dark. What else would you have been thinking of when you were referring to a nuclear bomb and you referred to her Miss Lively leaking, I'm a bad person, or that she felt unsafe with me? Objection. I think in the when you are somebody small in the industry like myself and you're dealing with a titan like Miss Lively and some of the most powerful people in the world, which are her best friends, and you're in a situation that I was in, I think it's very reasonable, especially at this point, to be concerned about what's possible and what's not. I was spinning at this point. Is there anything else you can think of other than the material contained within the 17-point list or the list that Miss Lively read from on January 4th, 2024, that as you sit here today, you might have been referring to when you referred to a nuclear bomb that could be leaked? Objection. Nothing about the 17-point list, but I assure you that list that was read to me contained complete fabrications of the truth. So I very well could have had that be part of what I felt scared of, lies. But I didn't know. I didn't know anything. I know that at this point my gut feeling was that she was going to take over the film. Lies. When you say lies, you mean lies insinuating that you had made Miss Lively feel unsafe? No, that's not what I mean. Lies insinuating that you had sexually harassed Miss Lively? Objection. No, I'm speaking about lies in general. You're the co-head of Wayfarer Studios, are you not? I'm the co-chairman. The co-chairman of Wayfarer Studios, but the executives answer to you and Mr. Sauer's. Objection. Objection. The executives answer to our CEO, and our CEO reports to me and Sauer's. And you testified earlier that you could fire the CEO if you wanted to? I imagine I could do, yeah. I imagine I could. And it's Mr. Sauer's money that financed this particular project, is that right? Co-financed, yes. Co-financed? Yes. If you'd wanted to, you could have just decided not to go forward with the movie, right? Objection. At what point? At any point. Not necessarily. As of February 23rd, 2024, could you have pulled the plug on the movie? I don't believe so. Even you don't believe that you could have done so without inviting litigation, is that what you're saying? Superior objects. I believe this was the biggest project we'd ever invested in, ever had, and we had a tremendous amount of money invested in it, and so did Sony, who were our partners. So we had an obligation, a fiduciary obligation, to Sony and to Steve's family to not pull out the film, to not lose that money. Objection. It wasn't just about money. It was one of the major factors, yes. Okay, but nonetheless, you're the co-founder of the studio, right? Yes. You're the director of the film, right? Yes. You're the co-lead actor, right? Yes. You are an executive producer, right? At that time I was. That is a lot of accumulated power on one movie, is it not? Superior objects. It is, and also I don't think it's unusual. Is that the typical arrangement that you're familiar with? I wouldn't say it's typical way. Objection. It's not typical. It's also not unheard of. Is that what you're saying? Superior objects. Yeah. And you knew that accumulation of positions gave you a lot of power over the movie, didn't you? Superior objects. I don't believe I thought of it that way. Did it make you mad that Miss Lively had power in the context of the production of the film? Objection. Did it make me mad that Miss Lively had power? No. Do you recall ever having a conversation with any representatives of WME before Miss Lively was signed onto the film about conditions and the demands that she was making in advance for coming onto the film? Objection. I don't recall a specific conversation. Do you ever recall drafting content that you wanted to communicate to WME that you share with Mr. Heath in December of 2022? I don't, but I'd be happy to see it. Do you recall ever saying, I discovered this book? I don't recall. I control this film? Objection. I don't recall. Did you discover the book? Objection. Did I discover the book? The book was given to me by my book agent. Did you turn It Ends With Us into a success as a book? Not me singularly. Did you play a substantial role in it? Hold on, sorry. Did you play a substantial role in it becoming a success as a book? Shapiro objects. I'm sorry, I thought you said the movie. The book, I played no role in it becoming a successful book. Okay, that was Colleen Hoover, right? Completely. The Baldoni been handed what's been marked as Exhibit 36, and this is a text chain between you and Mr. Heath on April 27th, 2024. Yes. You're having a discussion here with Mr. Heath about the trailer? If it's okay, I'd love to read it. I haven't seen it. Oh, sure, sorry. Okay. I understand this is a very personal exchange that you had with your friend, Mr. Heath. It is. And a moment of vulnerability and candor, right? Yes. You're talking in this exchange with Mr. Heath about frustrations that have been building for you and culminating in the construction of the trailer. Is that right? Objection. I believe so, yes. And you say a series of things to Mr. Heath, and that causes Mr. Heath to get a little bit upset. That's a pattern we have together. We tell each other the truth and we get shit out. And then we come back to each other. And then Mr. Heath, he's always a voice of reason for me. Sorry. Mr. Heath, I think, wisely advises that you both sleep it off and come back tomorrow, right? He's a wise man. And when you do come back, you apologise to Mr. Heath for what you were saying the night before, right? At 2:23 p.m. on the 27th on page 565. Yeah, I believe we could sum it up that way. And what you say is, you've just come out of therapy and you're purging shit out and exhausted. And then you say, so much fear of Blake coming out and going public about how I'm a bad person and unsafe and not who I say I am. Do you see that? I do. And that's similar language to the fear that you described to Mr. Van Winkle in the document that we just looked at a few minutes ago from February, right? Shapiro objects. I believe so. You were very concerned that Miss Lively would go public with some of the materials or allegations that had been contained in the 17-point list. And in the list you read on January 4th, right? Objection. Again, I disagree with anything to do with the 17-point list. But you think it might refer to items that were in this January 4th list. Objection. I'm sure I had feelings about the lies that I felt were in the January 4th meeting, but I think it's a very reasonable feeling that I'm expressing here. Mr. Baldoni, was the thought of someone saying publicly that you were not who you say you were one of your biggest fears? I think based on where I was emotionally in my healing journey therapy at the time in going through this film, I would imagine that was a fear. And that's what you're referencing here to Mr. Heath, isn't it? With your reference to the little boy that you're so intertwined with? Objection. I'm just out of therapy. And clearly not very sober in terms of my emotional state. So I was extremely sensitive and vulnerable and clearly in a very dark place at that moment. I understand. And I'm sorry to press on it, but you're saying to Mr. Heath, I think, particularly in this carryover message at 2:33 p.m. on the 27th, that your personality is being overrun by this little boy who feels scared and threatened. Is that what you're conveying to Mr. Heath in this message? Objection. No. That's not what you meant by he's been running the show when he feels scared and threatened, and that's who you get so frustrated with? Shapiro objects. What I meant by that is, in these moments of intense emotion, in moments where I'm short or can get angry very quickly, in those moments, I believe that is the little boy in me that doesn't feel safe. And it's those moments, like the moment I just read, watching the way that I was even texting him, almost with like a frantic energy. It feels like a little kid. And in those moments, it feels like that little boy is in charge. It's not literal by any means. But that feeling, which I recognize is a figurative description of your internal process, is what you're describing to Mr. Heath occurred to you emotionally the night before, right? Objection. I can't say exactly. And that feeling, or the little boy, or however we described it, was able to make you behave towards your best friend and the CEO of Wayfarer Studios in a way that you clearly regretted the next day. Shapiro objects. I think this is a very normal conversation for best friends who have been friends for as long as Jamie and I have, to have an outlet or a safe place to be angry and then come back I think marriage is a place like that, and I think friendships like mine and Jamie's, which I to this day feel so lucky to have, where you're not judged for moments where you're oversensitive or emotional, or you can say stuff you don't mean and come back later and not be judged. That's what I meant. All right, thank you, Mr. Baldoni. We're going to go off record. Right, so then they come back. Mr. Baldoni, you're being handed what's marked as Exhibit 37. Thank you. Exhibit 37 is an email you sent to Alex Sachs, Ange Giannetti, Jamie Heath, Andrew Caloff, and AJ Marbury on February 20th, 2023. I'm going to read it if that's all right. Yeah. And then there's some kind of interruption there where Mitra Hurian says Steve, and then Sarah it says sorry about that. Gottlieb says, can we go off the record, please? So they go off the record again. And then come back. Literally, they're not even off the record a minute. Mr. Baldoni, we're looking at what's been marked as Exhibit 37, same as we were before the break. And this is a message that you sent to Alex Sachs, Ange Giannetti, Mr. Heath, Mr. Caloff, copy to AJ Marbury on February 20th, 2023. Correct. Who is AJ Marbury? I'm sorry, I'm still finishing reading. Okay. Thank you. You sent this email. I did. It was an apology to the group. Yes. And especially to Alex Sachs. Yes. Who is AJ Marbury? My former assistant. You talked about this apology in a talk you did with Jane Randolph from No More a month later in March of 2023. Is that right? I don't know. You say here, over the last few months, I haven't been the safest place for myself, and in that, energetically, I feel I've failed at being a safe place for others. Do you see that? I do. Did you think that you have failed at being a safe place for others in the last few months? I think I was being very hard on myself here. Okay, does that mean you were being dishonest? Shapiro objects. No, but as I sit here today and I read this, I feel I was disproportionately hard on myself. Okay. You talk about how, in a meeting that you had recently with Miss Sachs, Miss Giannetti, and Mr. Caloff, Mr. Heath, you had interrupted and mansplained something as it relates to abuse and data and statistics to Miss Sachs. Is that right? That's correct. And you promised that, as we go forward, I will make sure that doesn't happen again to any of the women involved in this film. Shapiro objects. That's what I said. You said you would always listen. Yes. Do you think pressure had been getting to you at this point at the end of February 2023? Objection. I don't know if I can answer. It's been getting to me. I think I felt a lot of pressure. And that pressure had caused you to act in a way where you failed it being safe place for the writing of this. And that pressure had caused you to act in a way where you failed it being a safe place for others. That sentence doesn't make sense, but that's how it reads. No. I feel like, again, he's apologizing because he's explained something, and he's a man, and he's explained something to a woman, so he's automatically gone to default apologizing, which annoys me a little bit. It frustrates me, shall we say, because I wish he would have a bit more confidence in himself, and I say that with someone who doesn't have great confidence myself, but these texts keep coming back to bite him, and now he's looking at them with hindsight and saying, oh yeah, I was being a bit too hard on myself. But likewise, I feel like Gottlieb is just taking it too far, like with being so literal, like he's like, oh, I'm not a nice person, I'm not safe, blah blah blah. But that is like, how is that any different to someone with anorexia saying, oh my god, I'm so fat, I look terrible in these clothes, blah blah blah. Like when they actually, that's not true, it's just their self-perception. And then months, even years later, then they're sat in a deposition saying, with someone saying to them, well, you said you were fat, so again, did you wear the plus size clothes? And it's like, oh, come on, really? Okay. Okay. Would you have said these things you said here to Miss Sachs if Miss Sachs had not been a woman? No. No, sorry, objection. And then, Justin, I don't think I can answer that question. Did you watch or read Miss Sachs's deposition testimony? I did not read it. I watched some of it. Did you watch the part where Miss Sachs testified about an incident on set in which she felt verbally abused by you? I don't remember hearing verbally abused, no. Do you recall Miss Sachs testifying about how you yelled at her on the set at one point? I remember her testifying that, yes. And she had felt frightened by that. I'm not sure that was her testimony. Do you recall Miss Sachs walking off set after that incident occurred? I do not. With respect to AJ Marbury, do you remember at any point in time asking, is AJ Marbury a man or a woman? Woman. Do you recall at any point in time having Miss Marbury take a harassment prevention class on your behalf? No. Do you recall at any point in time in April of 2023 that you were supposed to be taking a harassment prevention class? I don't. Do you recall an exchange with Miss Marbury on April 2nd, 2023, in which she said, you're acing your harassment prevention class. Truly stellar job. And you responded, thank you. I'm working really hard at it. I don't. Okay, I want to ask you about the birth scene in It Ends With Us. Great. I want to hear about this. Are we done with this? Yes. Did you suggest that Miss Lively perform the birth scene naked? No. Did Mr. Heath? No. Did anybody else? I don't know. Did you want Miss Lively to perform the birth scene without most of her clothes on? No. Did you ever tell Miss Lively that your wife had ripped off her clothes during childbirth? Objection. I do not recall a conversation where I said she ripped her clothes off during childbirth. Do you recall ever sharing any information with Miss Lively in speaking about the birth scene in the movie where you recounted information about your wife giving birth to Miss Lively? Objection. I remember numerous conversations where Miss Lively and I were talking about and I don't mean my birth, but our like collective births, where she shared personal information and then I shared personal information about my wife. And as you sit here today, you can't recall any conversation in which the topic included the amount of clothing or the type of clothing that Miss Lively's character ought to wear during the birthing scene. Superior objects. I don't remember anything specific about clothing. That was definitely not what we were talking about in terms of all the conversation around our births. Did you ever ask Mr. Heath to share any portion of a video of his wife giving birth with Miss Lively? I'm just going to comment here again, right? Because they seem to be moving now. Like a minute ago when we were talking about the birth scene, now we're moving to the birth video with Heath. But like, he's asking, did you suggest that Miss Lively perform the birth scene naked? And the answer is no, 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 all the way down, right? The questions then do not move into, well, why did you make Miss Lively, perform the scene naked? Why didn't you close it? Where are these questions? It suggests that Miss Lively is now saying that someone told her to perform the birth scene naked, but in fact, she didn't. I keep an open mind. Maybe as we move on, we'll go back to this, but it just seems like he's jumped from one to another. And I'm thinking, well, hold on a minute, there's a hell of a lot of questions because that was by far one of the worst allegations that she made, was that she had to perform the scene in front of, cast and crew who had videos and phones, and she was only covered by this tiny little bit of fabric, what they call a modesty patch in the industry. I want to know more about this. And then, to be honest, in the Texas docket, she makes it sound like she's not even wearing a modesty patch. So I'm wanting to hear more about this. But he's at that point, and then he's just bounced. So I'm hoping we're going to come back to this. Okay, let's. Did you ever ask Mr. Heath to share any portion of his wife giving birth with Miss Lively? I did. Did you specify when you asked Mr. Heath to share that video with Miss Lively what he would share from it or how much he would share from it? Objection. The only video I'm aware of is after the birth of his child. So I believe there is only one I asked him to share. Right. So Lively, when she asked for all of the birth videos, knew fine well that it was after the birth, at the point of this deposition. Right, I'm gonna. There is there's still another 10 pages or so of, well, 4-page transcript, so it's going to take a while, and we're already kind of hitting. Yeah, we just hit an hour, so I'm going to stop here, and I am actually going to do another one. It'll probably be a much shorter video, but I don't want to go way over an hour either. Okay, so back for part 12, the final, and it will be the final part.